warm welcome to all the listeners here. I'm Venugopal S Senior Director, Solution Consulting for ServiceNow. Today, it's indeed my pleasure to welcome the most pleasant Arun from Cybage. Arun, warm welcome to you. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Good morning, Venu. Good morning to you also. Thank you for inviting me over.
It is indeed our pleasure and pleasure to all the listeners. You have changed the landscape of the dimension that you serve your customers. Please introduce yourself, a few words about you, your company, and I'll start off with my Q&A with you shortly.
Yeah, I'm not sure about changing the landscape of our customers. I think you guys are the leaders there. We are doing our bit. My name is Arun Nathani. I am CEO and founder of this company called Cybage. We heavily focus on product engineering services, mainly towards the Western world, and a lot of independent software vendors or technology-enabled businesses is our primary focus area.
That's great, Arun. Arun, I have a few questions that will help the listeners understand more about what you are thinking from a technology transformation point of view, the technology transformation you see at the customer space, and what are the actions you've taken to bring in change for your customers, for your employees, and for yourself as well. So these questions are in line in those dimensions. If I want to step back and look a year and a half from now, our world changed a lot because of these occurrences that we never expected to happen. But it did happen. It changed the definitions of work, the workplace, and the workforce. My first question to you, Arun, is about how has the work changed for you and for your customers, and what are those changes that you have done, you and your leadership have done to make this, accommodate this new changing world as far as the work is concerned?
Yeah, Venu, I think a lot has been spoken about this subject, how the Indian IT service industry, all industries, but definitely IT service industry went through a massive radical change in the way they adapted to the evolving situation of COVID and work from home environments. To some degree, it's like we were always prepared for it, but our back was not against the wall, or there was no compelling need to do it. Because technically, our offshoring industry especially, you already are working in a distributed work environment. Your customers are overseas, usually most of them, and they are working remotely with you in your offices out of India. Then why not employees working at home, as long as securities are protected, and there's a more efficient and elegant way of monitoring the productivities and the motivation of employees in a digital workplace. So IT industry did reasonably good job, and we, being part of the industry, we also moved fairly quickly. And today, as we speak, about 98% of workforce is working out of home. I am working out of office. So for me, it did not make too much of a change because there's a very thin population working out of office. And I like my routine of doing the meetings the way I always did from office, though they are digital meeting, but nonetheless, they are in the office environment. So yeah, it has worked out fairly well for customers also. They also are doing exactly the way we are doing, which is a fairly remote kind of environment, and collaborating through the technology that are in the place. And I'm sure this must have been, actually for ServiceNow, this must have been a booming time, because we ourselves have heavily leveraged the maturity of workflows of how to give higher productivity, higher efficiencies to our customers, the way employees execute their work wherever they are sitting, using mature environments like ServiceNow. It has definitely made a huge difference in the optimization of the way work is done today.
That's really interesting, because you mentioned about workflows and how your customers' processes are getting transformed. And that's a similar experience I've also witnessed in terms of how logistics, procurement, finance, and other processes are getting touchless. And I'm sure you're in the similar space, and you would have transformed these spaces from contact to contactless, which is the need of the hour. And
Right.
you also mentioned, Arun, being coming to office, and I call the people who come as corporate warriors, because the economy continues to have to grow. And since in those lines, the work culture has changed a lot, because there is a remote person, there is somebody working in the remote space. And you also touched upon IT is used to this offshoring, but it is just that we've not executed to this possible
Yeah.
extent possible.
Right.
With the change of this work culture and digitization, how important do you think upskilling of employee is in today's time? And how is your organization working on upskilling and reskilling the workforce, which are the pillars of the important in terms of driving customer experience as well?
Yeah, when you see the subject of upskilling, especially with a massive appetite for digital technologies in the global workplace that we talk about, has been splashed all over media, that we keep talking about how employees need to upskill to be ready for tomorrow's technologies. And I personally feel all that is fine, but the direction of upskilling is more tactical. The organizations don't need to go overboard on strategizing on that, because obviously when the kind of customers that we have are moving in the direction of the relevant technologies that are meaningful in tomorrow's workplace or tomorrow's enterprises, then naturally your workforce will be gradually moving in the direction by default. So everything that we talk about, how the agile way of working is, how the all ALM tools to be used, the power of cloud technologies, and anything that we talk, the digital buzzwords, is more of a mainstream, at least in terms of progression. So the demand supply mismatch automatically ends up pushing a workforce in the direction. Then organizations have to ensure that they have the right ecosystem and right training systems to respond effectively and in a timely, prompt fashion. But there is another type of upskilling, which we don't talk too often about, which is how do you evolve your decision making or the way you execute your work based on the availability of systems today and more mature environments, which make a technology intervention to be more optimized. How to be more productive, how to monitor the output better, how to eliminate the inefficient pockets, how the customer servicing can be optimized and stretched to its best. In fact, organizations such as you, such as ServiceNow, are playing a key leadership role in the transformation, and we are one of the beneficiaries of that. Beyond that, also, companies who are internally digital transform actually are also using a kind of upskilling game for their workforce. So a company like ours massively invests in the power of technologies, the wealth of data that we sit in making better decision making. How we do appraisal, how we do attrition management, how we do recruitment, how we measure productivity, how we build the teams. So that the ability to use the system for better decision making also is upskilling. So that is where the majority of the direction, I believe, most IT companies should be headed if they are not yet.
Thanks, Arun. I think you brought in a very important aspect around and a positive outlook towards demand. I think it gives you a new hope for people in terms of looking at newer ways of engaging. And you also brought in another very good expression called tomorrow's enterprise. I think tomorrow's enterprise, what we call as a connected enterprise, though they are too diversified, they need to be connected to connect the supply chain. Otherwise, there is friction somewhere. And you said tomorrow's resources need to understand the systems challenges that affects this. Can you just elaborate on how do you make connected enterprise and make the workflow, and how can people get themselves acquainted with this kind of new challenges that they are facing?
So again, it's a fairly heavy question, and I'll try to give you a flavor of answer, one or two flavors of answer. So firstly, what is connected organization? What kind of organization really means is that in my interpretation, that if you tweak this part of the organization, what happens to other part of the organization? Like if you promote this person in this group, what will happen to other group? If this person gets this kind of financial raise, then what happens to the other teammate or somebody else somewhere else in the organization? So there are our decisions and our actions have implications, and there are always trade-off of all the decisions that we take when you're running a company, which customer to invest in and where to manage what kind of recruitment attrition. I'm talking at the high level right now. And because there's a trade-off, you have to come with the most optimized decision which gives the highest efficiency. Right? Now that to me is a connected enterprise which can understand that when you do this, what is the implication of that when you do that. So it requires a massively matrix driven organization which can capture all the unknowns and use the power of data to make decisions rather than perception. So this is one way of looking at a connected enterprise. Now, when it comes to the workforce itself, many times the data points are workforce, your employees themselves, because at least in the industry we are in, the raw material are human beings, at least the service industry, which really means that your professionals are the data points. So sometimes they may not even realize that they are contributing to the higher efficiency of the organization because of the way their time is being utilized and leveraged and efficiently stretched. So be it our internal system that I was talking about, we call it decision minds, our internal environment, or be it the platforms such as ServiceNow gives, which are external tools to optimize and become more efficient in delivering. Either way, we are all talking about connected enterprise in terms of workflows and decision making.
Fantastic. And you talked about a very important area on cause and effect. And I think in a matrix organization, and most of the organization is our matrix, because that's where the dynamism comes, the creativity comes, and the work has to flow between departments. If somebody is joining, he cuts across multiple departments. So I think that's a very important point that you brought in. As we return to work, Arun, you mentioned that you and your leadership been part of coming to office all the time. But how do you make workplace safer for the employees who return? And this hybrid workspace is going to remain for some time now. How do you ensure that there is safety and workspaces for the employees when they start off?
So Venu, this is again something which all organizations globally, not just in India, and any industry are going through the evolving phase. And if I was to give you a more mature, clean, simple answer, a lot of this will be driven by what the regulatory bodies, at least the physical proximity and distances that we are talking about, be it health regulatory bodies, the best practices, or the government advocated policies and processes will be governing that. So there'll be a phased manner of bringing employees to work. Fortunately, I believe in the last few months, the vaccination drives in India have really picked up massively. So that is hopefully seeing the end of COVID over the next few months. At least the way we had seen, it won't be like that. So this is the pandemic related coming back to office. And right now we only 2% employees, and we'll gradually increase it. But at what pace and how much, only the next few months will tell. And we also be watching the best industry practices on that, not just internally but externally. But the bigger question also is what after that. So coming to your point about hybrid workplace, so there'll be always a certain section of employees who will be working from home. In most companies will be doing it. So will we, and each case will be dealt by the need and the ability and the capability and the project environment being conducive to work from home. But there will be a majority of the employees who will eventually come back to work in a more flexible way than the olden days, with a more accommodation for how the work-life balance works, or work from home versus work from office. But I do believe working from office is not something that is going to go away, because we definitely need social equity, as everybody talks about, the collaboration, the making eye contact and understanding challenges and the team playing. And we spoke about upskilling. This upskilling is not just technical; it's a social upskilling. Your personalities, your communication skills, your attitude, your collaboration approach. All that will come when you are meeting face to face. So I think that world is not going away anywhere. We will probably have best of both the worlds based on our experiences of the last 1 year.
Thanks, Arun. I think as a person, I know you're a caring person, and I'm sure you do all the right things for your employees, for their wellness as well. That's great news. You've been in the days of startups now. You've been a startup from long ago, founding this organization. If there is a message to the audience and the listeners here, one on the professional side and one on the personal side, what would that be?
See, okay, I'll tell you, I'm Vinu. I'm honestly a fairly boring guy, so my advice also will be a little boring because I'm a very stickler to routine. So pandemic or no pandemic, my lifestyle was pretty much similar, and I'm fairly disciplined in what I do from morning, like taking care of physical, your well-being, your yoga classes, I believe you also do yoga from what I understand. So that's something which I also enjoy doing, or just taking care of through cardio and through some weight training. So that part is anyways part of my routine that has been going on. But if I have to summarize it in a different way, what the professional personal advice that I could give, I would say that in general, there's a saying which is monotony is a highly underrated virtue. The ability to do the same routine thing with equal excitement day after day and having the balance of mind to be able to do it can take any professional places, and even in personal life, it makes a huge difference, that kind of commitment. And too much time the youngsters especially are chasing the variation of work, jumping a job, jumping the skill that they are in, or jumping the country, whatever, looking for that utopian world and a faster growth, and not realizing that if you go deeper and deeper in what you're doing and become a better domain expert and be stickler to that routine way of doing repetitive things more and more efficiently, you will be more successful in personal and professional life. And that has worked for me, and I've seen many successful people around me who have followed that philosophy.
I think monotony is a virtue is going to be the topic that definitely creates vibrations in me, because as a practitioner of yoga, you said that I practice the same thing again and again and again and again and reach a state of perfection. So I think that's the intent message. It's always been a pleasure talking to you, Arun Nathani. Today, it's been even more because this was packed with full of content for everyone all around us, to the listeners. Thank you very much and wish you all the very best. Stay safe and take care.
Thank you, Venu. I really appreciate the opportunity and wish you all the best and your organization the best years ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.